The Shadow of the Father, Jan Dobraczynski. Chapter 1, Part 1, The Wife. The heat of the afternoon sun pressed into the narrow little street. It seemed to be so thick. The walls painted white blazed with a blinding shine. A little donkey tied up to a peeling acacia trunk plaintively hung down its head and stroked angrily its tail against the sides when flies bothered it too much. Beside it, two children crouched on the path and played with sand. Although they were busy with a play, one boy stood up when the well-built man came across and said, "Peace be with you, Uncle Joseph." "And with you too, Judah," the man answered. He stopped by the children for a while. He gave the boy's shoulder a friendly pat and smile at the girl who remained crouched and was looking up at the man with her black eyes. "With you too, Sarah," he said quickly to the little one. He moved on. He walked slowly, flooded in thoughts. The children turned their heads and watched him. He stopped at the wicket gate that was in the wall. Before he went through it, he closed his eyes for a moment and whispered, "Baruch Ata Adonai, Melech HaOlam." It was one of the ritual prayers spoken during a day for different occasions. That one was spoken before a very important step. After the prayer, he pushed the squeaky wicket gate that was so well known to him. He made it himself long time ago. Behind it, there was a nice shadow and aromatic smell of leaves and grass warmed by the sun. Along the wall, a narrow walk-through led into a garden. Like a roof, the giant branches of sycamore trees spread all over the garden. There was a little square around the tree trunk, overgrown with a deep patterned bark. Through the leaves, the sun was flowing to earth, sowing it with trembling stains of radiance. Once, when he was a child, that little square seemed large to him, and playing was allowed there. It amused with its littleness today. A man who was lying down in a bed-like bundle of blankets under the tree was covered with a stripped, designed bedspread. By now, from far away, his heavy breathing was heard. Joseph came closer and bent over the lying one. The old man was having a nap. His white thin hair was floating over his skull like a down ignited by the winds. His mouth, where only a few teeth were left, was half opened and his lips were lost in the white beard. His hands, with swollen veins, were on top of the bedspread, and they trembled lightly. The old man had a thick, deformed ring on his finger that was tied up with a thread to stop it from slipping off. Joseph backed off. He sat down on a low little stool and waited patiently for the sleeping one to wake up. There was silence all around. No rustlers sounded among the leaves. The birds fell asleep in the branches. Unmoved, as if they were made of clay, the lizards were warming up in the sun. Suddenly, just for a moment, and without any rustle, the birds were running around from one place to another, and they remained as is frozen again. The cicadas hidden in grass were measuring the time with their chirps. With his hands on wide open knees, Joseph started saying his own made prayer. Eternal Lord, ruler of the universe, be blessed for sending the silence to your people, so we could think of you and worship your will. He loved silence since he was a little boy. Silence spoke more distinctly to him than sounds. It always required the same, a waiting. Life had been full of turbulence and noise. So many words and so many assurances, so many thoughtless complaints were said, which in fact meant nothing. He was stuck in that flow, like a stone in a stream bed. He was waiting, though in fact he did not know what he was waiting for. He was waiting for what the silence was about to tell him. Everything when the heat hours were gone, little drums and flutes were heard from the square behind the village. Young people used to gather there for playing and dancing. Joseph's younger brothers were there as well. Joyful voices, laughter, and hand clapping could be heard from far away. He was never in the company of his brother, though. Yet it did not mean that those joyful days meant nothing to him. He was still a young man, though. Temptations were coming from time to time. The calls of silence were fighting the calls of the heart, but silence was always winning. Days have been passing by working in the workshop, with moments for prayers dividing his work. On the Sabbaths and days of common prayers, he used to go to the synagogue. When it was his turn, he used to put on the ceremonial shawl called talit and stand up from his seat, go over the stand and take the holy scribe of Torah from the elder of the synagogue. Then he read along the right paragraph with strong voice and with his face turned to the still uncompleted side of the synagogue. He always had so much to do in the workshop. People were never lacking there who were arriving with orders. He was widely known for his reliability and handiness. And he never asked much for his work too. He never bargained with those who ordered from him. It was known that when he set a price, it represented the real value for the material, and there were a modest charge for his time and efforts. He also kept his promise as to the due dates. The plane always twittered, and hammers clattered in his workshop. The voices of children often were heard as well. He, a quiet man, he liked children, and he talked to them willingly. The matters were more important to him than the issues of the adults. There was always a small group of the little spectators in his workshop. They watched him while he was working, and they asked him questions, to which he replied. Sometimes he used to call over a boy, and he put a saw or a hammer in his hand and showed him how to use the tools. He would give him a piece of wood to work on. Sometimes he used to recognize a gifted boy and give him a friendly slap, and sometimes he used to shake his head trying to explain mistakes done by him. All children in the village used to call him uncle. After all, he deserved that title, as he was the oldest in the family line. The wicket gate he came through before squeaked. In the walk-through wall he saw men coming. They walked slowly and with dignity, wearing wealthy and strange clothes. Their beards were cut differently. Their clothes had no symbols of the law called CC. Both of them were the family members, but they left the village years ago and they lived far away from there, in Antioch. They have become famous merchants. Today, they have arrived to visit the family home. They bowed to Joseph and he replied to them with the same gesture. Peace be with you. Peace be with you too. You probably are Joseph, Jacob's son. One of the men asked. It is as you said, Joseph replied. We spoke to your father yesterday. He asked us to come again to finish our talks in your presence. But he, as I see now, is asleep. I do not dare to wake him up. You say that as if you were a boy. The other merchant smiled. Though in fact and for a long time you are grown up and the firstborn in the family. That is why we have come here to talk about you. A heavy breathing of the sleeping man became unstable and hoarse. His wide open mouth closed, as if a pain spasm crossed his face. Thin eyelids rose, showing his bright eyes. The old man was not too conscious of what he was seeing at first. An expression of understanding appeared on his face soon. Oh, there you are. You have come, that is good. Is Joseph here as well? I am father. The old man pointed out the merchants to his son. "Have you met him yet? This is Joseph, my oldest." They bowed their heads as if they were seeing him for the first time. "Although he is only a young man, we wish to show our respect to him as to the future elder of the family," one of the merchants said. No humility was heard in his voice though, and maybe a bit of ignorance. These men looked like they were wealthy people. Valuable and beautiful rings were shining on their fingers. They were made with better precision than the one that embellished Jacob's hand. They wore golden chains around their necks with the merchant's stamp attached. The one who was speaking had a golden band in his hair and a ring on his ear. "Of course," he continued, family matters are not so important these days as they were once. The families have spread all over the world. However, we have not forgotten the family matters," the other merchant added. "What recently has happened is..." Jacob's eyebrows rose. "Say that again," he said. "Most likely you all know. I mean, the manslaughter of Mariama's son." The merchant who spoke had less glamorous clothes than his companion had. His face was thin and pulled down. A net of wrinkles surrounded his eyes. His hair radiated with red color. He did it neatly. He pronounced the guilt wildly. He was almost crying when he was saying they plotted against their father. People of Jericho were so angry and were ready to stone everyone who was in the prince's favor. Then he brought them to Sebaste and ordered them to be strangled. That is how he put all the Hasmoneans down. The first of the arrivals added, "The king's family." Who is going to strip off the crown of the Judean king now? He appoints his Arab concubine's son as his heir. A silence followed suddenly. Only strong cicada chirps were heard. Jacob's heart-breathing voice opened that silence soon. "We heard all of that indeed, but what all of that has to do with our family?" The merchants looked at each other understandingly. "We have been told that Herod has ordered his spies to watch our family members closely." The one with the thin face said, "We both, Menahem and I," he pointed at his companion, "have found out that some suspicious men were wandering near our houses." "We have not seen anybody wandering nearby," Jacob said. A pride was heard in old patriarch's voice. "We are the blessed family. The highest cares for us. If someone tried to stand against us, the entire Israel would protect us anyway." Both merchants smiled ironically. "You are too confident of that, Jacob," Menahem said. as if throwing something away. To you it seems that we are still living in times when miracles were happening and the highest had been protecting all Israel at every step. Nevertheless, those are the old days now, of which we hear only in the synagogues. Once our family was of an importance. It was the king's family. The centuries have passed since that time, though. The families have been spread all over. Some of them were lucky and the others got poor. You, who have stayed here, are like an island of old memories. Not once I used to say to Fiaba. He pointed at the red hair merchants. It is good to remember that our families have been still living in Bethlehem. We would be able to find a young and honest man if one of our daughters would need a husband. Exactly, as it used to be in our family, Fiaba said. Exactly, Manhem continued. Family ties, that is our beautiful things. However, since he has paid attention to our old family, we can only expect some dangerous matters to happen. That is why we have come here. You tell me now, what do you want? Both merchants looked at each other again. Fayaba's eyes were down and he was turning troublesomely, the ring on his finger. Instead of staying in one place, it would be better if they would try to find some luck in the world as we did, he said. You wish us all to leave David's land? A horror was heard in Jacob's voice. Forget about David once and for all. Menahem exploded impatiently. The Pharisees speak continuously about some of David's next of kin, and Herod's spies prick up their ears all the time. I do not want to lose all I have, and even more, my life too, only because centuries ago I had a king in my family, and he pointed at Fiaba, does not want to it happen either. He broke off and there was silence again. Jacob's chest moved with quick breaths and his mouth trembled with white hair. You are speaking of some godless matters, he stammered it out. No, Fiaba tried to calm down Menahem's explosion. He did not think of some godless things. He cares for our people, as I said before. It would be good for the family members to spread out. However, all people cannot go away, of course, and there is no need for that. Those who farm the land and have become the real peasants are not exposed and are insignificant. The only important ones are those who have gained some values and fame. Both of them looked at the young man sitting next to them, who was silent all the time through. Joseph said, As I see you have been thinking of Joseph. He is a carpenter. That is why his work makes him famous, Fayabe said. We hardly had come to Jerusalem and already we have been told of him. They said he was the best in the entire Judea. Fayabe turned himself to Joseph. Is that true that people come to you from distant places? And that the king's administrators were placing their orders with you? It was like that, Joseph admitted. So you can see for yourself. Now Fayabe was talking to Jacob again. The spies know of that for sure. Now he turned back to Joseph. Do you have many friends among the Pharisees? Joseph shook his head. I do not know any of the Pharisees. There might be some that come to my workshop with orders. That is enough, Menahem said short. The Pharisees have gone mad, and their madness could bring a disaster to the entire nation. They have been plotting, spreading some prophecies, and resisting Herod's orders. He has punished them bloodily once, and he will do that again. He is a wise king in the facts. The cursed descendant of Ishmael, Jacob breathed out. Menahem waved his arm. That is an old story as well, forgotten stories. Herod secures the peace and he deals perfectly with the Romans. We all profit well by that. Let him either be a king for one of his sons only for the sake of the safe trading. But he has been killing the people, Jacob mumbled. You said that yourself. And who does not kill those days? The Hasmoneans used to kill too. Everything is done with a knife or with a poison. I know many people who make their living by preparing the poisons. And believe me, they live a good life. He is a profligate. He is a profligate one, Jacob read. They tell hideous stories of what has been happening at his court. He kidnaps the girls and the boys too, I heard. Jacob, you live here as if you were living during the times of the first father Abraham, Fayabe said. He stroked his beard. What has been happening at Herod's has been happening all over the world. The same has been happening at Caesar's in Rome. That is what the world has become now. We cannot change it. We cannot be so stubborn and live only by old customs. Of course, common sense is needed. Knowledge and wisdom come from Rome, Fayabe continued. We cannot be more stupid from those who rule the world. But it is not what we have been talking about, right? The point is that Herod has paid attention to our families. Obviously, it would not have happened if the Pharisees had not talked. They make him like that he is now. However, since it has happened, and I believe that for the security of our families, he stressed his last words, those to whom attention has been paid, should not stay here in Bethlehem. We think that Joseph should leave. Let him come with us to Antioch. It is a beautiful and rich city. We will find him a job and get him married. Why has he not been married yet? A man of his age should be already in a father. Jacob did not reply though. He just pursed his mouth strongly and shook his head. Fiaba directed his sight to Joseph. The young man quickly gestured his hand and explained nothing. It was not easy for him to explain such matters. Marriage had been offered to him many times. In addition, his father pushed him and demanded his decision. This issue has moved the whole family. The oldest son, the future head of the family. What are you waiting for? People were asking him. For what kind of princess? Is Judea lacking beautiful girls? You could even choose from the daughters of the priest. He has been waiting though, in spite of all these attempts and suggestions. You have touched a painful spot, Jacob said. There was regret and resentment in his trembling voice. He is approaching his 24th year of life. The last moments to make a decision. He will, if he comes with us, Fiaba said. He will see the world and have a look around. We will find you a wife. He blinked his eyes at Joseph understandingly. A beautiful one and rich. Joseph went quiet. A long silence fell again. Tell us, what do you think of what Menahem and Fiaba have just said? Jacob's squeaky voice flew over to his son. Joseph waved his hand. An indescribable way. He did not feel like leaving his family village. A silence ruled here, and he loved the silence. Time passes by, unnoticeably, in a silence. There were moments of resistance and impatience, but the peace soon returned. He was conscious of his father's regret. It was like a heavy load in his heart. However, he was convinced that the highest demanded that waiting from him. What will happen if he is forced to leave, and then what he has been waiting for happens? It does not seem right to me to go with them, he said. I do not believe in the fear of which they are saying. The world is none of my interests. You have completely gone stupid in this Bethlehem backyard of yours, Menahem hissed. Do not get angry, Menahem. As usual, Fiaba tried with all his talent of dealing to cover Menahem's impatient explosions. He say so because he does not know what the world look like. You surely think, he turned to Joseph, we have forgotten our beliefs, cleanness, the law? It is true that we are not like all of you here. We live among pagans, and we probably are not so much different from them now. Why estrange other people from us? We retain the law at our homes though. I'm telling you, come with us. I'm telling you the same, come with us. Menahem took over in a conciliatory spirit. What is keeping you here? Such a carpenter like you will always handle his things everywhere and will gain respect and fame. You will earn even more up there. They will treat you accordingly and pay you more. You will have so much money to spend on things over there. I do not desire a wealth, Joseph replied. Wealth proves the highest protections. Fayabe had not stopped trying to convince him. But the highest took everything from Job. I will not argue with you. I do not know the books as well as you do. Nevertheless, they often say in the synagogue, the highest does not help the sinners. Do you think otherwise? Helping the poor is the highest demand. The poor, if they are not sinners, then they are stupid and lazy, Menahem said it. Only from those like them have the Pharisees made their allies. They tell them about the Messiah, who will come and make them rich for nothing and without working. By saying such things, they only push people to revolts. If you also intend to say those things as they do, Herod will then extend his hand after you, and then all our families will suffer. Yes, all our families could perish then. Violence woke in Fayabe's voice, and who was silent so far. That is why you should leave. He turned to the old patriarch now. Jacob, order him to leave. Jacob stroked his white beard with dignity. Now the patriarch seemed to be gaining peace, while self-possessed Fayabe was getting excited. Have you heard all of that? Jacob asked his son. Joseph lowered his head. While stroking his beard, Jacob resumed. I did not like what they have said. No, I did not like it at all. Somehow there is some truth in their words. I will die soon. You are the oldest of my sons. In the future, you will become the head of the family. If Herod would pay his attention to our people and send his soldiers here, I do not want you to be found. I agree that you must leave. I demand that. Herod is old and soon he will die. After that, you can come back. Joseph's objection against this order given to him was fighting inside him with the respect that he had towards his father. So far, he had never opposed his orders. When his father was pushing him towards marriage, he only discussed it as a way of postponing it. Allow me, father, he used to say, to find the one I have been waiting for. He could not object any longer now. He had to agree, or openly stand against him. He looked at his father's face that became smaller and collapsed. He remembered well how he looked once, masterful and splendid. Moreover, he knew of his love towards him. Joseph understood that Jacob, by sending him into the world while he was preparing himself to die, was making a sacrifice. Fathers want to die while being surrounded by children, to hand over their last words. However, he thought being a father means to stand in front of the biggest of sacrifices and give away the one that is dearest. It means to refuse his son presence while dying, being unable to put his own hands on his head and to pass over the heritage. Could one oppose that kind of sacrifice? He lowered his head and said, "If you order me to go, Father, I will go." I want that, but it does not mean that I want you to go with them. Before you make a decision where you would go, I want you to get some good advice. There is a man who can give you that advice. Point him out to me, Father. Our families were mixed with the priest's families once. The last one of the family lives there, over the mountains. His shrunken hand pointed the direction. He is an old man, and not much younger than me. His name is Zechariah, son of Adam. They used to speak of him as a wise and religious man. I believe he still is the same. Go and see him. Go even tomorrow, visit him and ask for advice. It will happen as you said. Jacob stretched out his hand and placed them on his son's shoulders. They both remained that way for a while, face to face. Their lips were saying a silent prayer. Chapter 2. In the depth of the horizon, the mountains were rising before them. The tops seemed to be coming out, one after another, abraded, crushed by time. It was the same rocky comp coming from Bet-Sur that he had before his eyes for so many years. From here, though, it looked somehow different. It was more expressive in some spots, as if vertically undercut by a hand. The afternoon had passed, and the space pressed by the heat was rising with extended shadows. The brightness of the sun had created complementarily hot orange colors in these rocks, different from a grey-brown color of which the same hour was painting the comb on their sides. Naked and covered with large stones, the mountainside became progressively green. Black spears of cypress protruded above ravines, fourthly palm leaves waved, and the thistles full of dots whitened further below and dominated in the clusters of grass. The sides of the mountains looked like stairs marked with low little walls of flat stones. Over those walls the grape vines spread out their leaves with black grapes on them. Further below, at the valley bottom, the double rows of grown olive trees stretched out. The voice of the working people were heard in the fields. In the clean mountain air, in which the stream mumble filled the silence, those voices were heard from far away, and they seemed strangely close. The both men sat on the flat roof of the house. A plaited cane cover and tree branches were throwing a sprinkled shadow of trembling shine above their heads. At this hour, up there over the mountains, the heat of the noon was everywhere, but here a fresh sea breeze was felt. If you want to hear my advice, Joseph, son of Jacob, the old priest was saying, so I will tell you. Your father has decided rightly. You should leave the family village. The danger of which we have been told could exist indeed. They say Herod has gone mad. He sees enemies everywhere. He is ready to murder anyone that his spies point out. The same news has been coming constantly, so it must be real. However, it was also right that you did not go to Syria with those men. I do not know your relatives. They might be those types of people who, even by living amongst the pagans, could have preserved their faith, and their customs remain unblemished. Perhaps such people do exist, but I know unfortunately that the majority of our brothers who live up there have been touched by a plague, because our world, Joseph, has been touched by a plague. Sitting still so far and preoccupied with Zechariah's words, Joseph said, I do not know what you are talking about. I live in silence, and I do not know what is happening in the wide world. I come to Jerusalem only on the holidays. I am not going anywhere else. On the contrary, I go to town often. Our family forms the 8th class of the priests according to Esdras. Every 6 months it is our turn to serve in the temple. But I visit Jerusalem on other occasions too. Every month I go there for different matters. And once I am there, I open my ears for the news and rumors from the world. Up there I meet people sometimes from far away. He cleared his throat and placed his skin-peeled hands on the clay balustrades of the roof. Looking into a distant space, he resumed, we have been pushed under Rome's dictatorship. Our own kings have asked for the Romans' help, but even if they did not call for them, the Romans would come to us anyway. They are always unstable. for domination over our nations, but they are wise and unconditional. The Roman Caesar have brought peace to us. Their soldiers guard the borders of roads are safe, and their tax collectors take away our money. Rome does not mean only tough protection. It is also the spring of a poison, a horrible poison. Evil found by them in the conquered nation has poured into their hearts. It has fermented and it has become the evil of them. Rome has its own gods. It is ready to accept any other god into their pantheon. Everything that is a lie, self-glorification and search for a comfort, pleasures and lust. All of that comes from Rome and spreads over the world. Now I am talking about that plague. Rome, before it moves to conquer further, it paralyzes a victim with its venom like a snake. He went silent for a while, and through his half-closed eyelids he looked at the tips of greenish hillsides. The Romans' protection and peace gives us safety, though they poison us at the same time, he continued. Over there where our people live amongst the strangers, evil touches them easily. But it threatens all of us here as well. Many priests say, since we have peace and we are able to make our offerings to the highest, then everything is fine. Herod does not interfere with our lives. The borders of the kingdom touch the borders of David's kingdom. The Pharisees plot and revolt. They announce to people so that to persevere, preserve their cleanness to the fight, must begin. Then they have been announcing that they will give a signal soon. They have recalled an old prophecy about the Messiah. Although they say all of that, they still have a good relationship with the king courts. Some of them have even paid bribes to get Herod's favors. In fact, it is hard to say to where they are heading. People do not know whom they should listen to now. Israel has become the flock that has lost its shepherder. The priest went silent after he heard a threat on the stairs. The woman who appeared at the terrace was old. Her face was covered with cuts and wrinkles, though it was showing an extraordinary beauty that must have delighted others once. Her dark and huge eyes were looking from lowered eyelids. Her face seemed to be harsh, almost a masculine one. She was carrying carefully a vase in her hands. A woman servant was following her with a tray full of barley corn, pies, fruits, and a salad of a field, herbs and sheep cheese. She took the food from the servant and placed it on a table. Then she bowed and said, "The hours of work have gone now, and the evening has come. Would my husband as his young guest like to eat a modest meal that I have brought here?" She stood with her head lowered and her hands crossed at her chest. Elizabeth looked more like a servant than wife did in that gesture. The old priest turned his head and looked at the woman. Their eyes came together and this made their faces completely changed. Both the harsh look of her face as well as the uneasiness and sorrow of the man's face disappeared. A warm flash appeared in their eyes and smile flowed over the lips. At this moment, they both stopped being the old people who had many years behind them. "Let it be as you said," Zachariah replied. "The hour of work are gone indeed." He turned himself to Joseph. "Our guest, would you like to say a prayer?" Joseph raised his hand and covered his face with them. "No, Zachariah, you do it. You are the priest. You possess the great honor in front of the Lord." The old man twitched. A shadow appeared at his face, though it was bright a while ago. His lips compressed. A contraction flashed in his cheeks. One could say the man was touched with pain. However, he overcame it. A sign of melancholy filled his face, the same face that Joseph observed when he entered the priest's house. Zachariah put a shawl on, and with a voice slightly trembling, he began saying a prayer that people used to say in the end of work. It was called Mina. "Be praised, O Lord, the King of the universe, and all its creatures, who allowed us to have another day of hard work, and who protects us from sins. Amen," Joseph said when Zechariah spoke his last words. They took off the shawls covering their heads and sat down at the table. They both were alone now. The woman had left. The breeze became stronger a bit. The little branches rustled that formed a roof over the terrace. There was a change from that noisy calls of people working in the fields. And this time a song was heard sung by the people returning from the vineyards. They were eating in a silence. Only after they finished the meal and drank some wine-mixed water, Joseph said, "Thank you, Zechariah, for your advice. My father was right by sending me here to you. The Highest has favored you with a huge knowledge of life. However, you have not told me one thing yet. Since you think that I should leave my family village, and since you agree with me that I should not follow my cousins to Antioch, then, in your opinions, where should I go instead? What is it that the Highest prompts you in these matters?" Zechariah did not raise his head. The hand covered with a thin and rough skin that shone like the scales of a snake was moving back and forth over the table edge. "You have been expecting too much from me, Joseph, son of Jacob," he said after a while of heavy silence. "I told you only what the experience of an old man could tell you, a man who has seen and heard so much in his life. Yet do not search for the highest will in my words. A spasm passed over the priest's shrunken cheek again. Joseph raised his questioning eyes to Zechariah. I do not understand your words. You are so close to the highest by being a priest. You serve him. It is much easier for you to know his will. Zechariah shook his head, even though his blessing has not been laid upon me. What do you mean? I have no son. Joseph dropped his eyes. I know of your unhappiness, Zechariah, yet the highest. The priest did not allow him to finish. Are you saying that the highest can do whatever he wants? For sure, but sending such a disgrace on high priest, he has recognized him as being unworthy. His words did not sound with pain, but with despair. Joseph tightened his hand upon the wheat of his coat. Zechariah's impatient response had brought to him a thought that he had nobody to share his belief, and this was the first time he had expressed him loudly. Instinctively, Joseph felt he wanted to make a gesture as he wished to stop the man from making any further confessions, but he overcame it. If he wanted to help the man, he needed to listen to him. He needed to accept a part of his burden on himself, a burden that seemed to crush the old man. He does not reject those who are willing to serve him, Joseph resumed. Though he has rejected me, Joseph, Zechariah said, this with a painful stress. Not only he has the other things that I mentioned touched me. He broke off for a moment. He was fighting with himself. It seemed that it was not that easy for him to express his pain. However, his third confession was like a broken dam. He lowered his voice. Now he was whispering. Maybe nobody has noticed, but for so many years I have been doing my priestly service. So many years. And never during those years had I been chosen to do the act of adulation, the most honorable one. He spoke out those last words sharply and became quiet. Silence came again, as if some lid suddenly fell down. An evening breeze that seemed gaining strength was now playing continuously with the branches above their heads. A nearby stream sounded a bit louder. My life has been coming to its end. He resumed. They will not call for me again. The highest has given me the sign of his dissatisfaction. But you remember Job? Joseph said. Feverishly, he was looking for something that could lift that man from the bottom of his despair. His friends believed that the highest had sent his punishment upon him. However, he himself felt no guilt. Is there a person anywhere who feels no guilt? Zechariah's words dropped with a tragic slowness. Nevertheless, myself, I have found my guilt. Joseph almost would have asked the man, "What is it that you have done?" But he restrained himself. Since Zechariah started talking about himself, he felt that he should be allowed to say as much as he wished. He could not withdraw himself from listening to his confession. He should not push him to anything. "That guilt is lying on me," Zechariah continued slowly, pretending to be calmed down. "I have been thinking of that for a long time now, and I have found in myself," he paused, "that my love towards my wives is the guilt." He finally stammered out, "Your love?" Joseph repeated the same words, being surprised. "How can someone being guilty of loving somebody? Love must have its limits. But your love has not torn you from your service." "It has not. However, it did not allow me to forget about it." "Do we need to forget?" "We do," he replied roughly. "A human's love." "What is it?" "It is a comfort, and we need to learn how to push it away." He rested his head on his hand. What he tore off himself, it made him tired. It felt like a thorn had been taken out of his body. After so many years, he had spoken about his pain, a pain that he had been fighting night after night in his solitude. "You see, Joseph," he tried to speak calmly this time, but that calmness was so strong that his voice trembled. "I love her. She is my best and the most precious friend. The honorable doctors," he swallowed with effort. "The doctors say we need to thank the highest for that he has created us neither as Gentiles nor as women." "I would not be able to pray that way. Never. We both are old already. I do not know what will happen when one of us is parted by death. Because when the days of my service come and I would have to leave, I will not stop thinking about her and missing her." He spoke the last words quietly and fell into a flat calmness. Joseph was thinking, why is he telling me all of this? To a man he is seeing for the first time. It is true. Not once very strange people would tell him of their hidden worries. They used to come and order a plough or something else, and suddenly they would sit down and start talking about their worries. They would ask for his advice. He, who was living in silence and who knew only a little about life as such. They were so simple people. He was just a skillful and well-known carpenter, though to them he was a kind of authority. But Zechariah was a priest, a man with experience. With a certain effort, as if trying to lift someone's weight, he started again. It is improper for me to talk about that, Zechariah. He opened his arm helplessly. I do not know the world, and I do not know the life. Even myself I have heard of a rabbi who proclaimed that the highest, by creating Eve out of Adam's rib, has shown his disregard to woman, for a rib is not a noble part of a human body, they say. A woman has been created for a man to make his life lighter and nicer. Nevertheless, we know how much our ancestors loved their wives, how great the heroines Deborah and Judith were. A woman cannot be only for a man. There must be something sacrosanct in love towards wife. I cannot comprehend that our express it properly, but I am sure of one thing though, that through love, the highest wanted to reveal something great and secret to us. He opened his arms again and looked apologetically at the priest. Forgive me, but I cannot express my thoughts better, he whispered. Zechariah was quiet, but his eyes were stuck at Joseph's face. You are a young man, and yet you have said unusual things, he resumed. Please, continue. So you believe that the highest designed a task of high importance to a woman? I believe that. Joseph exploded with zeal. I am sure that one day he will raise her high up and will place her close to himself. I would not be able to love a woman because for me she is only a... So that is how you love your wife? Suddenly he dropped his side with shame because his own life had not confirmed those words yet. I do not have a wife yet. You do not? But a man of your age should already have been chosen a companion. I have been waiting, he whispered. The priest lowered his head affirmatively. So that means you have not found one yet to whom you could offer your feelings. I see. You have been expecting much. And you want to give so much too. Wait then. Do not rush with your choices. You will find a girl who deserves your love and hopes. May you not have to pay as heavily as I have for your choice. He added. Joseph made no reply. It was hard for him to find the right answer. It was hard for him to find the right answer to the pain coming out of that man, as if a sprout of a deeply hidden root. He could not agree to the explanation of the old priest. In addition, what could he say to that what was defeating Zechariah? Sharper and sharper, the scarlet seized the tips of the mountains. Bethlehem was just behind him. The wind changed into a gale and pulled the branches and leaves down there unseen under the umbrella of the trees. Flocks were heading towards their enclosures. Sound of bells, bleats and human voices were heard. "Is that your wish to go back tomorrow?" the priest asked. "Yes, Zechariah." "And what will you decide then?" "As you have advised me, I will leave, but not with those others to Antioch. I think that in Antioch you would not find a woman to whom you would give the love that you wish. Life is too noisy over there." "Thank you, Zechariah, for your advice. I will make up my mind about where I should go. May the highest lead you." They both spoke out the Arbits, a prayer for a new day that was approaching. Its meaning was the Word was born in darkness, so a new day could be born at dusk too. After the prayer they parted. The servant prepared a place on the terrace for Joseph to sleep. Before lying down, he stepped out to check on his donkey that brought him here, and to see whether it was in need of anything. He found it well cared, and the animal was moving sleepily its head over the thistles freshly caught. He turned back towards the house, and then suddenly someone called for him from the darkness. "Joseph, son of Jacob, please stop for a moment." He stopped. He could not see the woman's shape, but he realized who it was at once. "Yes, Elizabeth? Forgive me that I, a woman, am turning to you. I am old. I heard yours and my husband's conversation. I would like to thank you." "What do you wish to thank me for?" "Because you have dispersed the dark thought that settled in my husband's mind." "But I have not scattered his thoughts. On the contrary, he went to his bed so much comforted. And I also wish to thank you for what you have said about woman and love. That is how I think and feel." "From where did you get those thoughts? Even the prophets say many bad words about women. But somehow it seems that also the prophets were foretelling something. You, Elizabeth, they say that you know the books. Do you not?" "I do. The language of the prophets is full of secrets." "That is true. Everybody has mother though. I almost do not remember mine, but I think of her with reverence and love. I would not be able to think about her otherwise. The one that the prophets talk about will have a mother equal to him." "Are you talking about the Messiah?" "Yes. There has been so much talking about him recently. I know one old woman in town who believes she will see him before she dies. Do you think he will show himself in our time? So many generations have awaited him. They died seeing nothing though. She had no come close, and she remained a few steps back at a distance. He was not able to see her clearly in the darkness. "I do not know, Elizabeth," he said. "It is your husband, though, who should know whether the time of the Messiah's coming is close. If that woman's beliefs were real, so his mother must have been born already. May the womb of that one be blessed, the one whose son will take all the contempt of woman away, because he will do that, she called. I am sure of that. Joseph, may blessing come upon you for those words. Listen. Suddenly she came closer. Now he could see her shape in the darkness. She wore a white coat. Listen. I heard you talking about not having wife yet, and that you had been waiting for a woman to offer you love to her. I want to tell you that I know one girl who deserves a love like yours. Who are you talking about? About my niece. Her parents died and 2 of their children were left. My husband allowed them to be raised in our home. They were living with us for many years. The older one is married and has children. The younger is just coming out of her childhood. And she is here with you? No, she lives at her sister's. She helps her with the housework and the children. They live in Galilee, in Nazareth. Therefore, as you said, you wanted to go somewhere. Go to Nazareth then. In that town, a good carpenter as you are will have no trouble to find a job. Find her. Look closely at her. Oh, how happy I would be if it were you whom would marry her. You said she would deserve love. If there's a girl who deserves all sacrifices, then it is her. You have said so much. I would like to have a wife who I could love the way your husband loves you. Since you have raised her, then you must know her well. The white shape from the darkness moved a few steps forward. I do not know if I can say that I know her, she said quickly. She is my niece, though I will never understand how such a girl as she had appeared among us. You have to see her for yourself. I have never heard a man talking about love the way you do. Since you know what love is all about, then you will understand her. Go there and see for yourself. Do not spare your efforts, Joseph. The moon appeared in the sky. Its light was pouring amongst the branches as they were shaken by the wind. Now the woman's shape looming in the darkness looked like a phantom. Yes, Elizabeth, he said, I will go to Nazareth.